The sun is a merciless god in this land of cracked earth and shimmering heat. For the Dustwalker clan, survival is a shadow game, played in the ever-moving shade of giants. They are a small band of early humans, weary and tough, their existence tethered to the slow, thunderous migration of the great Triceratops herd. The herd is their moving fortress, their water diviner, their shield against the lesser hunters of the plains, the scuttling raptor packs and the lone, skulking carnivores that haunt the edges of the day. The clan follows, a respectful distance behind the last trotting behemoth, reading the language of swishing tails and low rumbles. They watch the great beasts use the sharp, keratin-OUS beak of their mouths to shear the life from tough, fibrous cycads, and from the churned earth left in their wake. The clan finds roots in burrowing things, this fragile symbiosis, a secret whispered between two species separated by millions of years of evolution, is the only reason they have not yet become bones bleached white under the glare. Tail, the clan's eldest hunter, squints at the horizon. His eyes, combed by a lifetime of watching, see more than just heat, haze, and distant mesas. He sees the way the herd is bunched, the nervous energy that ripples through the wall of horned, frozen armored flanks. The cows are kept tight to the center, a fortress within a fortress. For 3 sons, this tension has been a knot in his gut. The familiar predators are gone. The air is too still, too quiet. This is the silence of anticipation, the deep breath the world takes before the killing begins. He grips the smooth wood of his spear, its tip a shard of sharpened obsidian that took a moon to shape. It feels like a twig. The change comes not as a charge, but as a presence. 2 shadows detach from the distant rock formations, resolving themselves into impossible forms. They are too large, their stride too long and fluid. Giganotosaurus. The name is a choked gasp passed from scout to scout. They are not the brutish, solitary tyrants the clan has learned to avoid. These move with a terrifying synchronicity, their immense heads held low, scanning the herd not with hunger, but with cold, reptilian assessment. They do not roar. They do not need to. Their very existence is a proclamation of death that silences the prehistoric world. The attack is a lesson in brutal geometry. The pair moves in a pincer. Their movements a coordinated dance of extinction. They don't strike at the massive bull leader or the watchful matriarchs. They flow around the herd's edges, creating currents of panic until a young subadult, barely out of its adolescence, is separated from the main body by a few crucial yards. It happens in an instant. One of the predators faints, drawing the attention of the nearest adults, while the other explodes from its patient pace. The impact is a sickening crack of bone and flesh. The young Triceratops bellows, a sound of terror agony, as jaws filled with teeth like railroad spikes find their purchase. The herd thunders, a chaotic storm of defensive instinct, but the hunters are too fast, too precise. They have their prize. From their hiding place among the sandstone boulders, the Dustwalkers watch the life of their protector drain into the sand, and they understand this is not a hunt, this is a harvest, and their living shield is being taken apart, piece by bloody piece. The second kill comes 2 days later, and the third follows the son after that. The rhythm of their world is now dictated by the methodical butchery of the 2 great carnivores. The Dustwalkers feel the herd's fear as their arm. It is a contagion of dread that seeps into their marrow. With each fallen giant, the clan's protective shadow shrinks. The desert, once a manageable threat, becomes an open grave. The hunters' forays for roots and lizards grow shorter, more frantic. The children are kept silent, their eyes wide with a terror that needs no explanation. The twin shadows of the Giganotosaurus now fall not just on the Triceratops, but on the fragile future of their own species, a critical moment in hominid history. They are being starved out, squeezed from the ecosystem like a soft-bodied grub from a closing fist. That night, huddled in the chill of the desert dark, Kale makes a choice. Inaction is a slow death. Action is a quick one, perhaps, but it holds a flicker of possibility. He gathers the others in a shallow cave behind a curtain of dried reeds. Ilara, the old mother whose memory holds the lore of 3 generations. Lim, the young scout whose feet are as quiet as a sand viper's slither, and the strongest of his hunters. In the dim light of a small, guarded fire, he speaks of the inevitable. They will not stop, he says, his voice a low rasp. They will eat the herd until it is gone. Then they will find us. Silence answers him. The truth is a stone in their bellies. Fleeing is the first instinct. But where? To leave the herd is to walk naked into the maw of the desert, trading a calculated death for a certain one. It is Lynn who breaks the spell. She has not just been watching the herd. She has been studying the hunters. They use the canyon, she whispers, tracing a line in the dust with a knuckle. 3 times. They have pushed their kill east, into the narrow passage. The rock walls are their allies. They funnel the victim. They prevent escape. A new thought enters the cave, sharp and dangerous. An idea that changes everything. They are Homo habilis, the tool makers, the thinkers. Their strength is not in claw scale, but in the intricate folds of the matter inside their skulls. Kale looks at the dust drawing, then at the faces around the fire, seeing the dawning of the same terrible, brilliant gamble in their eyes. To use the predator's own strategy against it, to turn their killing ground into a trap. This is a hard choice, a leap across an evolutionary chasm. They have always hidden. Now, they must fight, not for dominance, but for existence. And they must ask the herd, their unwitting protectors, to be their unwitting allies in a war they do not know is being waged. The work begins before the next dawn. It is a desperate act of creation amidst annihilation. Kale leads one party to the canyon Lynn identified. Hayan Wenburul. A precarious overhang of shattered rock looms over the passage. For days, they toil, using long levers of fire-hardened wood and the chipped edges of stone tools, a crude but effective form of primitive technology. They painstakingly weaken the rock's foundation. They work in near silence, their movements economical, their fear a constant taste of copper in their mouths. Below, another party, led by Ilara, gathers armed for less of tinder dry thorn bush and clumps of resinous wood. They bundle them tightly with gut and vine, creating dozens of what will become torches. They are not preparing for a hunt. They are preparing a battlefield. They are sharpening their one true weapon, the combined intelligence of a desperate community, ready to set the very stones of the earth on fire to survive. The air tastes of dust and endings. From their perch on the canyon rim, the dust walkers watch the deadly ballet they have come to know so well. The 2 Giganotosaurus move with the terrible patience of inevitability, their forms shimmering in the heat. This time, their target is the herd's anchor, the old matriarch, her freely scarred from 100 challenges, one of her 3 great horns chipped at the tip. She is a mountain of defiant flesh, and the predators, arrogant in their success, decide to break her as they separate her from the bellowing herd, forcing her back toward the familiar canyon. Cal feels a cold certainty settle in his chest. This is the moment. There will not be another. He waits until the matriarch is fully within the narrow passage, her back to the rock wall, facing the twin jaws of her demise. He fills his lungs, and for the first time in the clan's history, a human voice is not used to hide, but to command violence. He lets out a shout. Death cry, the first war cry. It is thin and reedy against the vastness of the desert. Yet, it is the signal that unleashes chaos. Below, Ilara and her firebearers thrust their bundled torches into hidden embers. A dozen points of light flare to life. With coordinated swings, they hurl the flaming brands down into the canyon mouth. They land among the thorn bushes piled there, and the Triceratops explodes into a wall of roaring, crackling fire, blocking the entrance and startling the lead predator. Almost simultaneously, high above, Kale and his hunters throw their weight against the great wooden levers wedged beneath the rock overhang. There is a deep, growling sound, a vibration that travels from the rock into their very bones. For a heart-stopping second, nothing happens. Then, with a deafening crack, the slab of the canyon wall gives way. Tons of rock and ancient earth plummet downward, not on the predators, but just behind the second one, cutting off its retreat and striking its flank with a cascade of sharp-edged stone. It shrieks, a sound of surprise and pain, its leg twisting unnaturally as it stumbles. The trap is sprung. The two hunters are separated, one trapped between fire and the herd, the other wounded and cut off inside the killing ground with the enraged matriarch. What follows is not a hunt, but a desperate, primal dinosaur fight. The remaining Giganotosaurus, enraged and confused by the fire and the sudden assault, lunges at the Triceratops. The clan's role now shifts. They become a screaming, rock-throwing distraction, a chaotic third force in the battle. Their superior survival skills are not of muscle, but of tactical harassment. They hurl stones, not to kill, but to annoy, to sting, to draw the great beast's eye for a precious second. It is in one of these moments that the price is paid. Len, leaning far over the edge to get a better angle with a heavy stone, misjudges the loose scrape. A frantic swipe of the predator's massive tail, aimed at the matriarch but missing its mark, sends a tremor through the cliffside. Lynn cries out once, a short, sharp sound. As she disappears over the edge, Kale sees her fall, a fleeting shape against the chaos. There is no time to mourn. He roars, a sound of pure fury, and hurls his own spear not at the predator's thick hide, but at its sensitive eye. The obsidian tip glances off the heavy brow ridge, but the message is clear. They are not ghosts. They are here. The combined assault, the defiant horns of the matriarch, the stinging rain of stones, the fire at its back, and the wound on its pride is too much. The great predator, for the first time, feels the tide of battle turn. It is no longer the master of this canyon. With a final, frustrated roar, it disengages, limping past the matriarch and scrambling over the rockfall, fleeing to its wounded mate. In the sudden silence, broken only by the crackle of flames and the heaving breaths of the colossal herbivore, Kale stands on the precipice. He looks down at the matriarch. She is bleeding from a dozen gashes, but she is alive. She lifts her massive head and for a long moment, her ancient amber eye meets his. There is no understanding, no gratitude. There is only a mutual, grudging acknowledgement. The shadow has been fought, and for today, it has retreated. This single act, this desperate alliance, is a turning point in the epic of human evolution. The Dustwalkers are no longer just the hiders. They are the helpers, and the war for this world has truly begun. They did not win the world that day. They won a reprieve. They won the right to drink from the waterhole without terror, to see the next sunrise. Lynn's body was a stark reminder of the cost of that victory. But looking out from that canyon, Kale saw more than the retreating shapes of their tormentors. He saw the dawn of a new kind of power.
And constant
this moment,
become their
lost in the deep chasms of prehistory, was a blueprint. It was the first inkling that courage, when fused with intelligence and community, could challenge sheer, overwhelming force. This is the very bedrock of anthropology. The study of the moment a species of clever, fragile apes refuse to accept their place as prey. We, their distant descendants, carry the echo of that first war cry in our own audacity, in our refusal to bow to the inevitable, in our relentless drive to impose our will upon the universe. How much of our modern world is built upon the silent foundations laid by those who, armed with nothing but flint and foresight, chose to throw stones at gods? For in the long shadow of the beast, the brightest flame is not the fire we command, but the mind that conceives it. But on the coast, the oldest fears are learning to look up.